Good day and welcome back to the Zoe Japan podcast. My name is Anneri and I'm so happy that you decided to tune in again today. And today we are listening to an interview with Mariko Yamaoka from the organization Not for Sale Japan. And together we'll just be looking at the exploitation of foreign students. And these students come to Japan to study Japanese. Now this episode is actually part 2 of a longer video interview. So I really recommend that you also look on our podcast list and also tune into that first episode that deals with labor trafficking of interns under the Technical Intern Training Program. So with that, let's join Mariko in the Zoe studio for today's episode. So Mariko, I would like us to talk about another group of foreign workers that might be at risk of trafficking. There are many foreign students in Japan that have a visa sponsorship, especially through Japanese language schools. So can you talk a little bit around that issue?
Okay. So the student visa allow the students to work for up to 28 hours per week. And so that's the reason why the agents and brokers in their home country, they would approach the young people and say something like, why don't you go to Japan as a student and work and earn much money. So a lot of people would come to Japan. And meanwhile, the Japanese industries, they suffer labor shortages. So they want to hire the part-timers as much as they can. And sometimes a lot of Japanese language schools are established by other industries like nursing care facilities or factories. Those managers, those companies, they want to hire the students. So in order to do that, they establish the Japanese language school within their group, so that they can recruit the students and make them work at their workplaces. So when the students come to Japan and start working and start studying in Japan, but soon they would find that 28 hours per week is not enough. A lot of times they are burdened with the debt, just like the TITP interns. So they have to pay back their own debt, and they have to pay the tuition because they're a student, and they have to make their living. So it would be a little bit difficult condition. And if they work more, then they would be illegal resident. So that would make a very, very difficult situation for them.
It sounds very tricky indeed. I mean, they have a lot of debt, as you say, and both their language school that sponsors the visa and their employer is the same company. I think a lot of loopholes there that can be exploited. So these students, why don't they go to the police, or why don't they at least contact their embassy for support when this happens?
Right. Yeah. Because, well, one thing is that if they are new to Japan, their Japanese language is not enough to seek help. That's one thing. And if they are in the difficult situation, they want to, try to, make it better for themselves. So they will tell themselves that if they try harder, then that would, make them improved. But another thing is that the Japanese language school, they sometimes they kind of force the students to work in certain places. So, and sometimes if they refuse the student, to, stay in the language school, if the student want to, change the job or something like that, then, the student have to, go back to home. So that's the most fearful thing for the students. So that's why, if they are forced by the school, then they cannot report it to the police or anyone.
And of course, there are many amazing language schools that are not doing these things, great students that are not in this situation. So how can we find these students that are being exploited? What kind of red flags or indicators can we look for?
Right. So you can see, like if you are working for the language school, then as a teacher or something, then you can see if there are any students who are constantly sleeping during the class or constantly skipping the class. Then you can doubt that student might be overworked. Or if you're working with them, then if the students seem to be really depressed or very, very exhausted, then they might be forced to work. And sometimes if the student tells you that your passport are given to the language school, then that might be one of the factors that the Japanese language school is exploiting that student. So then that's the illegal thing, confiscating the passport. So you can report to the police or the labor standard inspection office.
Thank you. And I think that's good guidance. So it sounds like in isolation, it's difficult to pick out one factor. Sounds like the best way is to build relationships with these students and then looking at a combination of factors. And then, of course, as you advised, to contact the labor office or the police.
Right.
So thank you. Very, very interesting.
You're welcome.
Okay, so that was really, really interesting. And if you recognize any of these labor trafficking signs that Mariko shared with us today in your community, please check out our podcast notes. We'll be sharing some of the links of support organizations that specialize in helping victims in this area. And of course, if you don't know where to go, you're always welcome to contact Zoe Japan. Just check out our website at gozoe.jp, and then we would be more than happy to connect you with a suitable organization. And with that, thank you for joining today's episode and joining hands with us in reaching every person and rescuing every child.